In a quiet corner of a small town, there was an animal shelter, usually just a brief stop for most people. But on one particular Saturday, a unique story was unfolding, centered around 3 tiny lives that everyone else had simply ignored. They were 3 adorable, fluffy-eared rabbit siblings. However, a single, heartbreaking label hung on their cage. Sterile, not adoptable. They weren't sick. They weren't aggressive. They were perfect in every way, except for one detail that made them seem less valuable in the eyes of potential adopters. They couldn't have babies. Marla, the kind-hearted shelter volunteer who had watched them grow, felt a pang of injustice every time she looked at them. She would often whisper to herself, "It's just not fair. They're so full of love, yet no one wants them." The first rabbit was a soft gray, with ears that flopped down in the most charming way. The second, a sweet caramel color, was incredibly shy, often hiding behind his little wooden house. And the third, a pure white bunny with a tiny pink nose, was the brave one, always exploring, always curious. Marla had become deeply attached, but she knew her love alone couldn't guarantee them a home. Throughout the day, visitors came and went. They were looking for puppies that would grow into big, loyal dogs, or kittens that would one day have their own litters. The 3 rabbits were consistently passed over. People just didn't seem to grasp that their inability to reproduce didn't make them any less capable of being a loving, lifelong companion. It simply meant their love would be exclusively for their family. Then, a man named David walked in. He had a gentle sadness in his eyes, but a warm smile on his face. Holding his hands were his 2 young children, Emma and Sam. David's wife had passed away 2 years prior, leaving him to navigate the challenging world of single parenthood. The children were often quiet, still adjusting to a life that felt incomplete. "Hello," David said softly to Marla. "We're looking for a pet." "Something to bring a little joy into our home. Something for my kids to love." Marla's hope flickered back to life. "You've come to the right place," she replied, her voice filled with warmth. She opened the cage, and the 3 rabbits hopped forward. The children's eyes grew wide with wonder. Instantly, the gray bunny, as if sensing a kindred spirit, hopped right into Emma's lap. Sam, the more cautious of the 2, knelt down and gently reached out to the shy Carmel bunny, who, after a moment's hesitation, peeked out and let out a tiny, curious squeak. The bold, white bunny made a beeline for David, nudging his hand affectionately. "They're absolutely beautiful," David said, his voice thick with emotion. Then he noticed the sign. "But it says they're sterile." Marla's face fell slightly. "Yes," she confessed. "That's why they've been here so long. Most people want pets that can have families of their own. But these 3, they just want to be part of one." David knelt to be at eye level with the rabbits. He looked at each one, seeing not a flaw, but 3 little souls waiting for a chance. Without a second of hesitation, he looked up at Marla and said, "We'll take all 3. The words hung in the air for a moment. "My kids deserve to feel this kind of happiness," he continued, "and these little guys deserve a family that won't give up on them." Emma and Sam let out shrieks of pure joy. They wrapped their arms around the bunnies, and for the first time in what felt like forever, genuine, unrestrained laughter echoed through the shelter. Marla felt tears welling up in her eyes. "Are you absolutely sure?" she asked, needing to confirm. Taking on 3 at once is a big responsibility. David nodded with a determined smile. "It is, but that's why we're ready. They may be unwanted by some, but they're not unwanted by us." That afternoon, the 3 rabbits were carefully settled into their new carriers, ready for the journey to their forever home. On the car ride, the children excitedly decided on their names. Flop for the gray one with the floppy ears, Nibbler for the shy caramel one, and Snowball for the brave white explorer. Later that evening, David watched as his children drifted off to sleep, with the 3 rabbits nestled safely beside them. A profound sense of peace settled over the living room, a feeling that had been absent for far too long. It was as if the house could finally breathe again. Flop twitched his nose in his sleep, Nibble gently sniffed Sam's outstretched hand, and Snowball had curled up on Emma's lap, looking utterly content. The fact that they were sterile was completely irrelevant. They had found their home, their purpose. And for David, Emma, and Sam, these three little creatures brought back a light, a warmth, and a completeness they thought they had lost forever. It just goes to show that sometimes the greatest love doesn't arrive in the way we expect. Sometimes it hops into our lives quietly, soft and warm, and changes absolutely everything. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more uplifting content.